thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation. That's working. So, like you said, I'm currently a visiting researcher at KM, where I investigate how the subject of artificial intelligence is being applied in the arts. So I'm not, therefore, AI research per se, in the sense that I don't come from computer science or engineering, for example, but I come from media arts and media studies. And as such, I am more concerned with the questions of how technologies are being developed and applied in our social and cultural realm. That said, I would here like to share with you some of our outcomes of this research at KM, which involved analyzing some of the recent exhibitions and artworks developed within this topic. Rather than pointing out some of the possible tools and methods which can be applied to the arts and ultimately to the cultural sector, which I think was more of the subject of, for example, Christian Geiger's talk earlier today. I will point out a few more observations I have made as a result of this research, and I would like to share with you in order to be a bit more attentive to how we can apply AI technologies in the cultural institutions. With this, I hope to open up some discussions concerning the application of AI and ultimately think about how cultural institutions can contribute to this debate specifically. While the STEMs, meaning the science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, might be closer to a general consensus of the term AI, where it's often associated to, but also very in dispute, to this, which makes reference to the autonomous algorithm process which simulates or expands on human-like intelligence and activities. In the arts, we have a very loose and broad understanding of the term, where we see, for example, artists working directly with, I think it's not going. Yeah, sorry about that. Where we see, for example, artists working directly with the available AI technologies, such as enhanced pattern recognition processes, which can then be applied to the analysis of the so-called complex data, like images and videos, and many of which you can see here at the exhibition in Open Codes. And this is an example, Emotional Hero by Ruben van der Ven, and it's a video game-like app inspired by Guitar Hero, where the participants' scores point by following certain rules or cues. In this case, it's facial expressions. The project questions the use of facial and image recognition software as being objective analytical tools and measurements, which can also be applied, for example, for job interviews. You can see Archive Dreaming by Refik Anadol, in which machine learning algorithms were employed to search and sort relations between over 1 million documents. Interactions of the multi-dimensional data found in the archives were then translated into an immersive installation, which was then exhibited at Ars Electronica in Linz last year. But we also see artists working not only with the concept of AI, addressing some of the major concerns today, and not necessarily making use of AI technologies per se, but rather expanding the concept of artificiality and intelligence. This is an example called Hybrid Sensorium by Saint Machine, which explores the way humans sense their bodies within a physical space and the sensory distortion caused by this mediation technology sets with this direct contact. The work makes use of the concept of this artificial being which reacts to the participants' breathing and presence. We even see artists which go beyond the idea of AI to address the related issues in human intelligence, what it will become of humans after the generalization of AI technologies in the social realm. This is a project by Manuel Beltrans. It's called Institute of Human Obsolescence. This is actually a very good example of how cultural institutions can address and make use of AI technologies or the topic of AI in a critical way, much like Christian Jörg Andersen talked yesterday about the smart cities, by creating a space for experimentation and speculation. In this Institute for Human Obsolescence, human bodies and its resources are used in order to produce capital. Body suit harvests the differential temperature between the human body and the space and converts it into usable electricity, and this electricity generated is then fed to a computer which actually produces cryptocurrencies. It ultimately questions the future of human labor in a future scenario dominated by machines. So these artists are then expanding our notions of artificial intelligence beyond technological applications. And this is possible because we in the arts have a certain creative license, let's say. But then again, within the sciences like STEMs, they are also stretching the terminology towards other conceptions of artificiality and intelligence, especially when we see developments in human intelligence enhancements through artificial means, such as the whole brain emulation, biomedical enhancements, and brain-computer interfaces, and so on. Within those artistic experiments with AI, be it in technology or in concept, we can also spot some recurring subtopics. With some examples already given here, artists are exploring the possibilities of human-machine symbiosis by also incorporating advancement in neuroscience and through experiments in bioart. Here we have Self by Guy Ben-Ari, the world's first neurosynthesizer. Its brain is made of biological neural networks that grow in a petri dish and controls in real time its body that is made of an array of analog modular synthesizers that work in synergy with it and plays together with human musicians. Artists are also exploring the subjects of affective computing, emotional intelligence, and empathy, such as the suffering machine that we can see here at Open Codes, a project by Matthias Richter, as well as AI governance and singularity, such as Pina Yoda's artificial intelligence for governance, the Kitty AI, which is shown here, in which an artificial intelligence in the form of a cat acts as a first non-human governor of an European city in 2039. You also see more overspread topics regarding algorithm and human biases, which we just discussed previously, data and algorithm ethics, legislation, and the legal lacuna, and the idea of the creative AI, which questions the possibility of an autonomous algorithm being capable of creating art, for example. So how can the cultural sector and institutions contribute to this debate? Well, be it applying some of these technologies in cultural institutions or through educational and public engagement programs, many examples we saw during these past days, there are a few things to keep in mind that I would like to highlight from this research. First, there is this wow factor. Although there are new advancements in the field, it's important to recognize its history. And the history of AI development shows that once and again, it goes through waves of wowness, which means there are waves of high development investment followed by the end of those fundings. And it seems we are in the midst of one. And although it's quite interesting and important for cultural institutions to engage and hop on this current wave, it might be relevant to see it as part of this wider context of the cultural digital reconfiguration of the field, which we are discussing here in this conference. But like the ups and downs of new media and its buzzwords, AI also suffers from what has been called AI effect, or a fundamental paradox. That it is, as soon as it works in society, as soon as people accept it in society, it no longer becomes an AI. It meaning the neo-autonomous algorithm-based application in question. So, which means that if we want to take this beyond the current waves of this wowness, we should also think about adopting more precise terminologies, as it often preferred by the STEMs, such as pattern recognition, machine learning, neural networks, and so on, which then become themselves the new buzzwords, ironically. And then we have scientists such as Oren Etzioni, which is the chief executive of Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, suggesting that the current field is actually suffering from myopia, as the current focus on neural networks, and I quote, will hurt the progress of AI in the long run. So talking too much also about a certain concept within AI is actually damaging the whole thing, as it's actually limiting the investments and interests in other alternative forms of understanding and developing machine vision, for example. And interesting enough, we from the cultural sector actually just started to scratch the surface of, for example, neural networks, right? So apart from all this terminological problematics around AI, it is still very important to address it, as the term is already part of a historical phenomenon, as an already part of our cultural imagination. And this is auto-encoding Blade Runner, a project by Terence Broad, where he trained a neural network to reconstruct individual frames from the film Blade Runner and then re-sequence it in video. So this is, in loose terms, an AI watching somehow one of the most iconic scenes of Blade Runner, which then become part of our cultural imaginary. And this is where I would like to bring back the issue with creative liberty in our sector. The cultural sector has not only the vantage point of being able to question these current scenarios from a perspective outside of the stems in order to understand the implication of those technologies in culture, but most interesting has the possibility of expanding and experimenting with the concept for that same purpose. So we have here the example given by Muda with the HAL 101, which I'm a big fan, as you can see, which might not be seen technically as an AI per se, but explore conceptually the idea of this artificial being the main curator. And this by itself already brings many preconceptions and practice into discussion, as it happened here, which was really nice. So to sum it up, what happens perhaps is that we need right now in the field initiatives which are able to contextualize their practices within a wider scope and historical application of AI, while at the same time bringing a critical view on past and current contexts in order to be able to experiment further, meaning initiatives that can situate the past while thinking in the present scenario and on the current issues in order to develop future approaches. And I think this is already quite a challenge, right? So this is it. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, thank you very much.